Okay. Oh, well, hello, listeners and viewers, and thank you so much for joining us today at the Mind, Body, Spirit Network. And today we have a fascinating special guest for our High Vibe Tribe expert interview. So before we dive into that, I'm going to ask you some questions to kind of pique your interest in what the speaker is all about today. So what if you could gain insights to your soul's plan? Would you like to make sense of your soul patterns and contracts? Clear out challenging karma and resolve challenges carried over from other lifetimes? I don't know about you, but I'm like, hell yes. It's entirely possible when you open to the powerful wisdom stored within your Akashic records. So today we're talking about the Akashic records. And if you listeners or viewers have no idea what that is, you're not alone. I have an awareness of it, and I've had some experience with it, but our guest is an expert in accessing these things. So just so you know, to put down lay some context, I am a partner with the Shift Network, and they have these amazing speakers that they curate from all over the mind, body, spirit realm that are experts at what they do. And today's guest, Ms. Lisa Barnett, has an upcoming event called Discover Your Akashic Records. Communicate with the record keepers of your soul's journey, clear karma, and deepen your intuition. So let me just tell you a little bit about Ms. Barnett. Ms. Barnett, she has devoted her life to serving as a divine channel to help people connect to their divinity and receive the soul guidance they're searching for to heal and transform their lives. She spent more than 10 years as a religious science certified practitioner, where she offered healing prayer treatment to the congregations and served as vice president on the board of directors. She's the founder and CEO of Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom, an internationally recognized school where she teaches students to access their soul wisdom in their Akashic records and master numerous healing tools, meditation, and prayer systems. The school has thousands of students worldwide with dozens of certified consultants and teachers. She has more than 25 years of experience in spiritual healing, is a master of many healing modalities. Her specialty is empowering individuals to find greater fulfillment, happiness, abundance, health, and ease by helping them align with their soul path, understand their soul contracts, and complete their karma and sacred vows. We could read on more and more, but Lisa, welcome, my dear.
Oh, thank you, Liz. I am excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited to hear more about this whole Akashic Records thing. And before we go on, I want you to tell me what's the name of that book that you just told me about that you wrote, because I want to include it here.
The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records.
Okay. That ought to sum it up pretty nicely.
All on Amazon, which is always great, right?
Oh, yes. Okay. Cool. So why don't we just start with some basics, because I'm sure there's a ton of people that have never heard of the Akashic Records. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what they are and how you got interested and involved in it in the first place.
Absolutely. So the Akashic Record is the recording of your soul's journey throughout time. So if you can imagine that you really are an infinite soul, having all sorts of different human experiences, and honestly, most of us have 500 to 800 lives here on Earth alone. We also live in other dimensions, in other planes. Sometimes people talk about being starseed, which means we've actually lived on other planets or planes or dimensions, depending on how you can imagine another planet. So all of this is actually recorded for you, so you have your own personal library and your own personal librarian. So there are beautiful beings of light that keep your records for you. So when you go and say, what was I thinking when I came here this time? You know, why did I pick these crazy parents? There's something about that in your Akashic records. So you can actually answer these huge kind of why the heck kind of questions very often and understand the gifts and talents you've come to share. So powerful, deep, supportive information in your Akashic library.
So I just want to say one thing, because a lot of my audience knows that I'm a student of consciousness. I study levels of consciousness as taught by Dr. Hawkins, David Hawkins, who lived in Sedona. You must know about him, Lisa.
I'm familiar, absolutely.
So I just want to support what you're discussing here, because Hawkins calibrates levels of truth and levels of consciousness, and what is true, what's not true, what holds truth, what doesn't. And he often brings up the fact that everything we've ever thought, said, believed, have been throughout eternity is recorded. So this kind of relates to, this is kind of like, puts it into context. It's like, oh yeah, so where is it? Where is it recorded? So I just wanted to throw that one into the loop. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I actually spent a week, went to a weekend workshop with David Hawkins, and just the highest vibrational human. He was so awake. It was phenomenal. It was very, very beautiful to get to.
So you were super sensitive to his presence then? I understand everyone is. You can't help but be super sensitive to him.
Yeah. Very, very beautiful, very conscious, very awake. Really, he was an enlightened soul embodied. Yes, it was. So yeah, we often, the Akashic records, or this recording of your soul's journey, is sometimes talked about as the book of life. And so we believe that in different sorts of spiritual or religious scriptures where they've talked about the book of life, that they're really referring to this recording of your soul's journey. So it's much more than just, who you were in a past life. Because again, if you just imagine you've already had 600 lives here on earth, it's not, was I a king or a queen or somebody I know? Was I a famous someone? It's much more about what your soul planned to do in this life. And that means the gifts and talents that your soul is bringing here, that are of course related to numerous very empowered past lives. But it's also about learning and growing as a soul, which is what we also call karma. And many of the people we want to support, some of them are our soul family members. Some people, we want to work out some karma with them. So this plan that we write, it would be like writing a business plan, except for it's for your life. So it's lots of information that can help you understand and get more aligned, get more on task. Really, I do Akashic record business readings for people because they want to start a business and they're like, is this the right business for me to start? Is this, do I really have this gift? So we can actually look into all of that in your Akashic record.
So I have a friend who studied the Akashic records and just kind of started to practice with it. And she did a business reading for me, which was really fascinating. I would love to do another one. But super interesting. It can cover any topic, not just spiritual stuff necessarily, but even relationships.
Oh, absolutely. I would say that probably at least half, or if not more, of the Akashic readings I do, because I still do Akashic record readings and I do healings. That's a very important part to me, is to clear that stuck energy. But people say, do I have a soul contract with my spouse? Why did I pick this family? Was there something to learn? Is that contract complete? And again, often with our family of origin, there is some karma attached. If you had a challenging family, and I know so many people have parents who were not conscious, maybe there was some sort of alcohol or drugs involved, or some form of abuse or neglect, or narcissism. I mean, right? Not many of us had the perfect parent, I have to say, though I did. I'm very lucky.
Nice. What are you looking up for? Are they looking
Well, mom's up there. My mother crossed 20 years ago, but my father just turned 90. And I always say I partly picked him. He's very awake. He's very conscious. And interestingly, the family lineage, the ancestral genetic lineage, are Cohens. So the spiritual leaders in the Hebrew tradition, the name is Cohen. And so I was born into the family of Cohens, even though I wasn't raised classically Jewish. That's the energy that really, and that lineage, right? Because that's a whole long family lineage. So we often will pick a family because of information that's in that ancestral lineage, such as being a Cohen, being a spiritual leader and teacher, or, sometimes we'll pick an ancestral lineage because we actually have been in that lineage. You might be your great-great-great-grandmother.
Right. I have got a feeling about that, Lisa, that we could be like, just like a joke. There's like this, everyone wants to win the lot. Not everyone, but, people want to win the lottery and whatever. And there's a song by Alanis Morissette that says you win the lottery and you die the next day. And then I'm like, well, maybe I could come back and inherit that as a trust funder. Just for fun. I mean, that's like total
absolutely
possibility, yes. Right?
Yes, it is. It is not unusual to see something like maybe a child that you had that maybe crossed early come back as a grandchild from another one of your children.
Yes.
Not so unusual for people to stay in a family lineage that they really resonate with. Now, of course, that would tend to be the families that are more of our soul family members.
Yeah.
Right. So these are people that we've been with for a very long time. So soul family is another kind of topic that people are interested in, because when we individuate from source, we are born with a little, in a little basket. Just if you imagine, like when you go to kindergarten or maybe you go to preschool, there's maybe 20 little kids and they go through kindergarten and first grade all the way through 8th grade together, even maybe through high school.
Yeah.
All those same kids all of your life, that's like your soul family.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a metaphor or it really is? People that you started off are...
No, it really is.
Oh, cool.
So we travel around with the same group because we're learning and growing together. So we're in this same kind of place consciously, usually.
Yeah.
And then the other interesting piece is that as souls, we start out as these really huge souls. And so often as we travel through time, not that there really is time, but when we start to individuate from just spirit into bodies, we actually will break into smaller pieces. You know how people talk about a soulmate, and the idea with a soulmate is a soul broke into 2 pieces and now you're looking for your other half. Right. Well, actually the truth is that your soul may have broken into 10 parts or 100 parts. And so you're not just looking for one other half, you're really resonating with those 100 other people who were once part of you, maybe 1,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 or 2 million years ago.
Right.
It's a long time ago, really. So
is that kind of the twin flame thing?
Yeah.
Or it's one and the same?
Because it's not just 2 as a rule.
Right.
So you feel it when you find one, because even 100 out of 7 billion people, and not all 100 are going to be on the earth at this time.
Right.
So if you find one in your life, you feel it.
Oh, yeah. I've had that experience.
Yeah.
It was pretty. It was amazing, but it was a little, I've encountered the power of spirit, and I didn't know how to handle it. So it was a little bit of a problem for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And so like even a twin flame, my best girlfriend is a twin flame. She and I were once one probably of 1,000 we're 1/1000th of that bigger soul.
Oh.
And she is the godmother to my twin daughters. So
Oh.
that's interesting, right?
Super interesting.
I have twins also, identical twins. So that's one that splits into two.
And are they Geminis by chance?
No, but my son is a Gemini.
Okay.
I have a singleton's boy, and my identical twin girls are Aquarians, but he is a Gemini. So I always thought, it's also kind of serendipitous or ironic or just downright crazy. But to me, this is the way the record keepers say, these are the fun ways to kind of teach you or, share different kinds of information or wisdom with us. So,
right. Okay. So, humans want to know, are they on the right path, right? But there must be purpose to not knowing too. Is that true? Or
yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean,
you can't give away the farm and not get out of it what you came here to get out of something, regardless of how trying it may be.
Right. So we come as souls to learn and grow. So part of the growth is about figuring it out and often doing it differently. And that's the karmic pattern. That's the karmic piece.
Aye.
If every time you come in to Earth and you have a challenge, you bail, right? You can be like, oh, this relationship's too hard, I'm out of here. Or maybe you start drinking and so you become an alcoholic. Or you contract some sort of illness because you're so miserable, you want to leave, and your spirit's like, okay, well, we can get sick and die, right?
Yeah.
So we have all sorts of different ways of leaving, but what that's doing is it's a karmic pattern. That means you're not figuring out how to work through it. You're not figuring out how to be compassionate, how to forgive, and how to move on with grace. And that is truly one of the biggest human lessons we're coming to learn. So we take, probably many, at least 100 or more lifetimes to figure this out.
What's the hurry?
So
I said I keep,
right?
here forever. What else are we going to do?
Well, we do hit a point here after 600, 800 lives where we're very awake, where we really have learned what we've come to learn. And then we have choices. We might go and kind of become an ascended master type of soul who actually helps from the other side of the veil. We might come back by choice as a more awakened soul. But often, even in that way, we still have to go through some of the kind of waking up piece. We're, well, I'll tell you my funny story because you actually did say, how did you get into this?
Right.
So when I was 3 years old, I was trying to tell my mother something. And if you've been around 2 and 3 year olds, they don't have a really vast vocabulary, right? So I always say I was probably trying to tell her I didn't like whatever it was she was cooking for dinner. but it was like my memory is looking at my hands and thinking, I'm trapped in a body. And just this like, oh my God. And I said, I want to go back. I want to go home. Poor mom. She was like,
Did she think she had a goofy daughter?
A little. I mean, she was always so sweet. She'd always be like, you are home, dear, right?
Yes.
I'm like, no, I'm not. Let me just tell you, this is not home. Because I could remember being an etheric soul. I could remember communicating with these other souls with just this kind of telepathic energy share that didn't take all these words.
So did you forget that? Or did you always remember that and take it with you throughout life? Or was there a point where your parents or someone said, no, honey, let's let that go? Or
I probably forgot for a while in those early kind of years, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I woke back up again when I was about 13, and I was like, damn it, I'm in a body again, right? It was like that same crazy epiphany. And, and I actually remember I was looking in the mirror, and it's kind of like if you ever look yourself really deeply in the eyes in the mirror, it can be really kind of creepy, because it does this whole thing, or to me it does. I don't know what other people feel, but that's how I feel, right? Yeah. So it triggered me again, and so I started to study. And I was lucky that I was, at that point, I think it was 1969, and I was living in San Francisco, California.
Ooh, hippie doo-dah day.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was going into high school. So I did a lot of reading. I wasn't really part of the Summer of Love, which was about 2 years before, but, I wasn't old enough to be a hippie, because I'm a kid still. But there was a lot of different writings. Robert Monroe, who started the Monroe Institute, wrote his first book back then, which was called Journeys Out of the Body. And of course, this is my biggest, intention. How do I get out of my body?
Did you learn how to do that?
Well, in these different sorts of ways. I mean, that was really all about astral travel. Right. And fascinating information. If you've never read any of Robert Monroe's or looked into any of the Monroe Institute stuff, it's pretty fascinating. But Baba Ram Dass wrote Be Here Now. The Maharishi was working with the Beatles, right? So it was a perfect time for me to come back and be born, So I chose a good time. I chose a good, understanding family. I was living in California. My parents had just moved back to California when I was 12. There was, things to read. So it was beautiful for me. So I just started studying then and went on to a minor in philosophy in college. And so that really continued. But here's the interesting thing, and this is, again, I share this because I know that most of us have these different sorts of patterns. So when I was in high school, one of my best friends died of a brain tumor. But before she died, she was in a coma. And I knew on some very deep level that I was a healer, and I felt that I should be able to heal her, and I didn't know how. So that was really kind of heartbreaking when she crossed and I couldn't save her. I took on a lot of that kind of, is guilt. And so then about 5 years later, my total soul sister, who I had spent every day with since I was 5, just about, until we moved to California at 12, she died in a car accident.
Ooh.
And then I was mad. I was livid. I basically told God to just F off. I'm like, I don't know what I came to do. I know I came to do something. I'm very conscious. But if this is the way you're treating me and my friends, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I am totally over it. And so I said, I wonder what humans come to do. And I was kind of weirdly conscious. I actually kind of thought that way.
Oh.
So I'm like,
curious mind.
Right. They're like, well, have fun, make money, get a good job, travel. Travel sounds like fun. And so I think that's what I'll do. Skip the spiritual stuff. And I got a really good job in advertising. I was a production director at an ad agency for 15 years. I traveled around the world, a lot of the world. And it was still the 70s and 80s in California. So I had a lot of crazy fun, right?
Nice. All right. So I know we've got the tree guys coming. So we got to, right. I do want to talk about your upcoming course and talk about some of the key points of so Lisa's upcoming course is called, again, hold on, Discover Your Akashic Records, Communicate with the Record Keepers of Your Soul's Journey, Clear Karma, and Deepen Your Intuition. So she's got a free online event that's going to introduce you to all of this stuff. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that event, Lisa. And then maybe, it leads into is it a 7-week course, or what's the course that you're offering? 7-week course. Nice. Cool. So if you could talk a little bit about this event, and we'll have links to it so you guys, it's happening, you're going to have through June 19th, I think, to have access to the recording. So if you miss it, she'll come around again, and we'll have links to her website, and there's other ways you can connect with Lisa. But for now, we're going to talk about this event, and go ahead, Lisa, and tell us what the freebie is about.
Yeah. So June 1st is going to be the first event. If you can be there on that Saturday, that's always fun. So I really will, again, talk a lot about what the Akashic Records are and how they can support you and help you transform your life. Because what happened for me many, many years ago, the record keepers asked a couple of different things of me. They said, would you please help us bring this ancient, powerful wisdom back to the planet? The Akashic energy had been pulled away from Earth back in the Dark Ages about 1,000 years ago. And they said, it is time, really with the dawning of the age of Aquarius, for people to have this amazing empowerment tool. This is your birthright, to be able to talk to your record keepers, to understand your soul's plan, and to heal and clear a lot of your old karma, understand your soul contracts. So that's what I teach you in the 7-week workshop. I teach you how to open your own Akashic records, to converse with your personal Akashic record keepers and librarians. And I teach you tools to clear karma, to understand your soul contracts, to understand the vows that we've made in different lifetimes that can really keep us stuck. So in the event, I'll do a lovely guided visualization where I'll take you with me energetically into the Akashic Records, and you can bathe in the river of forgiveness, and you can reclaim one of your past life talents and gifts. So we'll have an experience of that, a nice, it's about a 10-minute guided visualization. And I'll certainly talk a little bit more specifically about the course itself, you know, how we go through it. But the record keepers have given us, given me specifically, a 5-step wisdom prayer system. So you don't have to meditate for 20 years to access your records. You don't even have to be good at meditating at all.
Okay, good. I know that would be an obstacle for some.
Right? Absolutely. Because they've given me vibrational keys in the form of sacred prayers to open your record. So literally by reading one of these vibrational keys or this sacred prayer, it shifts you energetically from here to your records. And it's amazing and very powerful. And so,
so quick question, do people, you know, in the audience need to have any particular, extrasensory perception gifts or not?
You know, you don't really have to. To me, it's what the record keepers have said is that you just need to really have that calling, have that desire, you know, be on somewhat of a spiritual path, so you're
right.
You know, more conscious than your average muggle out there in the world, right? And I know if you're watching or listening to this, you already are that.
Yes.
And here's one of the very cool things. In the first session, I'm going to do about a 40-minute healing session for everyone who joins the class. This is not in the free live one. This is in the course, the first session of the 7-week course.
Yep.
I'm going to do a healing on everybody to open their clairvoyance, their clairaudience, so they can hear better, your heart, your claircognizance. So I actually do healing on the group that's part of the class. And then if they join, they can receive that also as a downloadable MP3. So it's something you could do again and again and again. So clearing layer after layer after layer, which is, you know, really normal for us to need to do. Yeah.
So I don't know if I mentioned it in your bio, but you are an energy healer. I mean, that by practice, right? Yeah. So it's a nice little bonus that you're kind of weaving into the course, which is nice to put all these different modalities together. And so So we just have a few more minutes here, Lisa. And I wanted to get back to the clearing karma thing because people are kind of that and the soul contract thing. Because when I first heard about soul contracts, I'm like, I don't want any contracts. I want to be free to create and be and do what I came here to do. I don't want to fulfill some contract. What's that all about?
Well, here's an interesting thing is that, so if say I did a reading for you and we asked in your Akashic records, not everyone writes a lot of soul contracts. Some of us have come to be much more the divine wisdom keepers, to be divine feminine, to really bring forward right now. There's a huge, bigger soul contract to empower the divine feminine, the feminine, to bring the feminine and masculine back into balance, because masculine's been so powerful for the last 2,000-3,000 years, and women have been kind of the underdogs, the doormat. So it's important they become balanced. We're not going the other direction, but it's the balance. So there's so many women on the planet who have come to be the divine feminine and to share that with the world in so many ways. And for some of us, that means marrying and having kids and being like the divine feminine mother. And some of us don't. We'd rather just be on our spiritual path and be the mother of many instead of the mother of one or two. And so a lot of divine feminine, mother energy is not, means that we're actually not in more human relationships, because we want to have the bigger, more etheric relationships, get to be the teachers. So we don't write as many soul contracts in a sense.
Okay. And is it kind of the human propensity to have these soul plans when you come in here, but then the consciousness of the planet gets in the way, and that's where the weak energy link is how you go down that karmic path that you keep repeating? Is that kind of how it's working energetically? Or?
Yeah, kind of. So everyone always writes a soul plan. But part of your soul plan, part of your soul contracts, so the record keepers are very funny because they're pure unconditional love. They're pure source energy. The Akashic record keepers have not been human. They're not your grandmother. They're nobody you've ever known.
Okay.
These are pure beings of light who have decided to be in service to you. You each have your very own record keepers.
Woo!
Right? And they're waiting to talk to you. So it's like, you have these guides and they're hanging out like, I wish I could help you, but you need to ask for help, right? Access this information. This is why they say this is your birthright. Learn to talk to your record keepers, because it can be really specific information. But so we say, I've been stuck in this karmic pattern. So for one person, I use the example of kind of jumping out of relationship, whether you just leave or you become an alcoholic or you die. I mean, you're jumping out of that story. You're not finishing or learning, to the end. And so you might say, I've been doing this again and again and again. I can't figure it out. Why don't you, this soul I'm making a contract with, why don't you do that for me so I can see what it feels like and come to understand it in a different way?
Ah, thank you for that.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Yes, right? So we can say, oh gosh, I get that. I now see what that feels like. And when you can understand that you actually chose that, you get this bigger picture, and it's easier to go, oh, I get it. Maybe I forgive my partner.
Right.
For that transgression. Maybe I try and heal this, and that way you're healing your karma and you're completing that karma, and you don't have to go back and do it again.
Nice. So I want to share this one experience I had, and then we'll have to wrap it up because I know you got stuff to do. But I met, according to a spiritual healer I worked with, who would say, like, everyone thinks they've met this twin flame when they haven't. It's a different kind of energetic connection. And she wouldn't be quick to say that to anybody. So she said to me, you met your twin flame. And I'm like, okay. I felt that there was some significance to it. And then I had a horrific experience, a quantum spiritual awakening that I think about it now. It's like I have a propensity to want to be in spirit, but I don't have the wherewithal, the foundation to handle the power of it because it's whatever. But I was totally distraught not to be with this gentleman that I met. And I couldn't let it go, but I also I wasn't going to like hound him at all. I wasn't telling him what's going on with me. I'm like, I have this awareness. He would think I was nutty if I told him I had this awareness of tremendous love. So finally, after a good solid year of crying and despair, I heard a voice that came in and said, I came here to be that for you. And then I got it. And then it's like, hands off, you let go, I get it. So if all of us can have a really challenging relationship and take it from that point of view, I came here to do this for you because I love you, right? That's the underlying I love you, whether you recognize that or not, and you don't feel it coming from me because I'm giving you a hard time. But today, okay, I got it. And then you decide, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to continue with this struggle, or am I going to let it go and allow it to be?
Yeah. Beautiful, right? So you got the karmic message, or, you know, to me, what would happen if you would come to me and asked about this energetically, we can move a lot of the old energy. We can look at maybe old contracts that were stuck outside of time. Doesn't sound like that was your particular situation with this person, but sometimes, I mean, I have clients who have met someone, maybe they're married and they meet someone and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so in love with this person. And when you go into their records, you realize that you've been married to them maybe more than once. And so it's more of a past life memory.
Right.
And a contract for this life.
Got it.
And when you know that and you clear that old past life contract that's kind of stuck, then you can go, oh, like, I can appreciate that person. I can be friends with them. I'm kind of over the other thing. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that life, you know, back in ancient Egypt when we were married.
Yeah.
That's the past, right? This is now.
Yeah. Okay. I have one more question and then I'm going to let you go. And that has to do with coming into, so the question is, does the soul have like an eternal latent gifts and talents, or an eternal gift that the soul carries with it energetically for like eons, and then maybe it says, oh, let's try a different path?
Oh, that's a good question. So this is the way the record keepers explain kind of this whole big soul purpose idea. So often people are like, what's my purpose? You know, and you have multiple purposes. You have more than one gift.
Right. So
what I realized for me, right, when I woke up at 3, it was about communication. One of my biggest purposes is to be a communicator. And that, of course, shows up in all sorts of different ways. It shows up exactly in this way. I've written 2 books. I speak to just lots of people. I teach. I'm, you know, very verbose, right? I am here to communicate higher wisdom. So that also means that part of my soul purpose or gifts is as a sage, which is, again, kind of the idea of sharing higher wisdom. You could say as an author, as a writer, that's one of my more specific gifts, all of which kind of fall under the communication part. Yeah. So,
they're kind of archetypal energies, though, each one of them, right? They're right.
They absolutely are. And this is the way I find the record keepers often explain our purpose, is more in these kind of archetypical sorts of patterns. Now, the other big gift for me is healer. So that's really almost, well, if I can say strongest, because being the healer, this is the thing that really triggered my second awakening. After my 15 years in advertising, I got really sick.
Oh.
And I realized I was way off path, right? I was not really here to do corporate work and to have so much fun. Anyway.
Have so much fun in a different way, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. So that came through as you're a healer. You came to be a healer. And so when the record keeper said, will you help us bring the Akashic records back to Earth? And we want you to teach people to heal through the Akashic records. Because most people who read the records, I would say, read the records and they give you information. And I've had many clients come to me who said, I had a reading and I was told something traumatic, and, you know, maybe I was killed as a witch, or I killed somebody. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do about that? I'm like, you know, it's like, oh, let's clear that old energy. We can clear those old contracts. We can let those energetic blocks that are showing up in your physical body and your life in that sort of way, we can clear them. So you don't feel it anymore. You might remember it, but it's not like that panicky feeling like, oh my God, I got killed, right? Or I killed somebody, like I'm a terrible person, like all that kind of stuff. So we can let that go. So that was their big point, was to be able to use the records and get the information, and then to release and clear these blocks, and to really be able to move forward with greater ease and grace.
Nice.
So that's a lot of what I teach and why I teach it. But the way the record keepers have explained it in the past is that they would say, if you imagine you have a jewelry box, and in that jewelry box are 12 pearl necklaces, and each pearl necklace kind of represents a talent or a gift. So one of those necklaces with all the lives as the pearls are lives where I was successful at that. So these are all the successful lives of being, say, a writer. So when I went to write my first book, I went back into my Akashic records and I kept asking to show me past lives in which I was a successful author, in which I could write with ease, in which I knew what I was doing, in which I was published, right? So lots of aspects of being a writer, and you can reclaim that energy from the past and bring it into the present. It's like, you know, kind of soul retrieval. It's, to me, the Akashic version of soul retrieval. We're clearing the pain and trauma so we can retrieve that beautiful piece of our soul, that learning and that memory. So, you know, I worked really hard to get that pearl necklace nice and clean so I could wear it, right? And use it so I could write with ease. And so now, like I say, I've written 2 books and I'm planning on starting my 3rd this summer. But so I have a healer necklace and a mother necklace and an author necklace and a speaker necklace and a teacher necklace, right?
Nice.
So we bring different ones to Earth at different times.
Okay. Well, that's such good stuff to know. And I know every one of us would like sign up. Well, not everyone. I'm speaking for myself. It's like, I want an Akashic reading first, and then I'd love to understand how to access it for myself. I love that you're teaching that. And it's an unusual type of course, but I'm glad we're here today to introduce it to a lot more people. And
yeah, well, let me tell you one more thing, though, as you say that. One of my bonuses in the course is to give my students a 25% discount on an Akashic record reading and healing session with me.
Nice.
You know, if you want to do them both.
Thank you. That's worth it, right? Well, the whole thing is going to be worth it. I know you're going to be a fun teacher to be with, and you're going to bring through some seriously healing energies, and karmic clearings is a good idea. So thank you, everyone, for listening in today. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck on the launch of your Shift Network class.
Thank you.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, share it around. The other day, I was interviewing David Crow, who's a plant medicine pioneer. And I'm like, hey, well, you can listen in every week and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening there as well. Or you can, just binge watch the whole thing. Start binge listening and binge watching YouTube, which we do anyway. So there'll be a link to sign up for Lisa's class if you're listening into this through June 19th of 2019, which happens to be my birthday, June 19th. And I'll also share Lisa's website is akashicknowing.com, so you can connect with her for readings and classes and speaking engagements or whatever, however you want to communicate with her. She'll communicate right back. That's her life. She's good at that. Expect an email back. So thank you everyone for joining us again today, and for the Mind Body Spirit Network's High Vibe Tribe expert interview.